Here we go, and we are scheduled to be here until. Thank you for being here.
Very good. All right, so welcome Janelle and welcome Gabby, and for those of you who catch the recording later, welcome and thank you for being here. We're going to get us started right now, and today's conversation is really at the heart of your day and at the heart of anybody's life, which is how to manage or even eliminate stress and anxiety in one's life. And that's a big thing to say, given that stress in some degree is useful, right? Your brain, my brain, understands that or thinks that if you're stressed, that means you're doing something. We're not quite going to be engaging today on the conversation at the level of the brain, but just to kind of give an introduction for it, my brain, the way that it works is that in its reward system, it gets a little bit of chemicals that create a reward in your brain when you're stressed. It's basically telling your brain that you're doing something about what you're stressed about. So that's why it is so useful for people to be stressed or to worry. In some way, it is a reward for the brain. However, the long-term effects of being stressed are really awful for one's life. The long terms will be at the level of biology will be your cortisol levels will go up, and at the level of the impact to the people around you, you create an environment. One creates an environment where creativity is not available, where relationships are not available, and all of that. So, Saurel, I'm excited about engaging in today's conversation on how to manage and eliminate stress in one's life.
Yes, so am I, Giovanni, and I'm also excited about the possibility that the conversation harbors for all of us who are participating tonight. So, Janelle, Gabby, Giovanni, Sorel, I'm promising you nothing short of a, a transformation in your life as a result of your participation in this conversation. So I'm engaging that way, and I'm asking you to engage the same way. And all it takes is being here and right now. And so if you'll take a moment to say, to put aside anything that may be in the way of you being fully present, or even just say anything you need to say right now to be fully present and here with us for the next 50 minutes, that would be awesome. Janelle, Gabby, anything you need to put aside, anything you need to take care of to be completely dedicated to this conversation for the next 50 minutes?
No, I do to share. I'm at work still, but I get intermittent calls, so I can be fully present at the time that I'm not distracted by work.
Okay, I got that. Thank you. And if that happens, you can go on mute and you'll be able to catch right back up, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, Janelle.
Thank you.
All right. We here. In my introduction, both of you already know me, so I'm not going to go into any details about my background and that, but I want you to know I am here inside of a long-term commitment to have human beings like you, Giovanni, and me live the best life possible and have our businesses and our relationships grow effortlessly with as little risk as possible. That's what I'm committed to. And I'm committed to that in this conversation as well. So that's why I'm here. And my name is Saurel Quettan. I'd love for you to introduce yourself, say your name, and take a moment, even if you have to take a couple of minutes to think about it. What are you currently dealing with? and you would love to have a breakthrough in this hour. And I'm asking you to take a moment to think about it, because the promise that I just made, that Giovanni's making, and that we're collectively making, we're only able to fulfill that promise when you bring your real life to the party. So this question, what are you currently dealing with? And you would love to have a breakthrough in this hour, is asking you to bring your real life to the party. So who wants to go first?
It's Gabby. I'll go. Like I've just said, my name is Gabby, and what I'm currently dealing with, I mean, one of the things that I'm currently dealing with, is the fact that I'm spending so much time at work around people that I don't necessarily trust. So I'm always on guard, always weary of where the next thing is going to come from, you know? Even when people are being kind, apparently kind to me, I'm always suspicious. It's like, okay, what do they really want? So therefore, like today, I've worked almost 11 hours. I spent 11 hours. My entire body is tense. My shoulders are tense because I'm constantly reacting, and that causes me stress.
All right.
That's one of the things that I'm dealing with.
I got that. Thank you for being, the brave one to go first and to really bring your life to the party. Welcome to this conversation, Gabby. CC, is that you?
Yes, am I on mute still?
No, you're not. We can hear you loud and clear. I just wanted to confirm you're the one on the phone.
Thank you.
All right. We're introducing ourselves with name and bringing our real life to the party by saying, what are you currently dealing with? And you would love to have a breakthrough in this hour. Janelle, would you like to go next?
Okay, thank you. So as I was sharing before, I'm dealing with recovering from a surgery and possibly haven't gone back to work too soon, and having my doctor not call me back today because I've had a flare up. And so that's what I'm like currently dealing with, just, pain and a sense of suffering, but just still being present and maintaining, what I need to accomplish for the day with my daily duties.
Janelle, regular human beings don't do what you do. Like you just had surgery, regardless of whether it's minor or major, you're in pain and you're here. I want to acknowledge your commitment to living a great life. Like, despite what's happening right now, your doctor's not calling you, all that, you're here and you're doing what you need to do to be present. I acknowledge that. I acknowledge you. Rock on, girl. Rock on.
And I just celebrated my 5-year anniversary at the job. So it was, it's been a good day.
Good deal. Good deal. Welcome, Janelle.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Cece?
Hello, everybody. This is CC. And what I'm dealing with is financial insecurity, health problems, and a reoccurring unsanitary living conditions. And what I've been doing is taking action around all those areas, such as doing business, being in communication with the management company about repairing or replacing the unsanitary condition, as well as budgeting, doing extra budgets for myself. So that's what I'm dealing with without going into a long story. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you for being, like we're all human beings, right? That Giovanni and myself are here leading the conversation doesn't mean we're not dealing with circumstances or things in our lives as well. So on my end, what I'm dealing with is I've got my business partner, Giovanni. I've got my other company, and I've got another company. I've got three things going on at once. And I'm wondering if I can pull it all together and produce the results I am committed to producing. Giovanni?
Thank you, Saurel. I find myself in everybody's conversation, and for the interest of time, I want us to continue since it's almost 7:18. Go
Awesome.
ahead, Saurel.
Let's do that. So in Giovanni's introduction, he started to talk about some of the challenges that dealing with circumstances and stress will actually bring to the party. And those challenges are, you don't have the ability to focus and remain productive and grow your business. You may be straining the relationships, like when you stress and then people come to you and they go, "Good morning. Don't you look so beautiful?" And you snap right back. And Giovanni also mentioned the long-term health issues associated with stress, cortisol in the bloodstream, lack of energy, and lack of self-esteem, all connected to the stress that you and I create for ourselves inside of a way we live, and a way we live and deal with stress, where stress and anxiety does have an impact on our lives. So very quickly, if you could take a moment and look for yourself, the stress and anxiety you're experiencing, given the circumstances you just shared, what you're dealing with, how is the stress and anxiety impacting your life? One or two words. Who would like to share?
Well, I feel paralyzed in sometimes to do the things that I want to do based on the circumstances of feeling stressed about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there should be something more I could be doing.
Yeah, so the impact on you is that you're paralyzed, like at a standstill, right?
Yes.
And you're paralyzed, not taking the actions you want to take or know to take. What's it like for you being paralyzed?
Well, it's difficult to say the least. To make the decisions that need to be made and take the action that needs to be taken.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that difficult.
You find that what? I didn't hear that last.
Difficult.
Mm-hmm. And when it's difficult for you, what's your experience of yourself and your experience of your life?
So, well, I'm stressed because so that's why I'm here. It's like, okay, what stress reliever mindfulness exercises can I do? And so I look for, what could be the opportunity inside of the problem. And I don't get that answer oftentimes because of was thinking about what's not happening versus looking to find solutions for what could be happening.
I got it completely. And in the next slide, Janelle, what you've just created is specifically what this webinar is about. You are looking at your life. We're not going to give you answers, and we are going to give you a lot of questions that will leave you powerful in the face of what you're dealing with. And to the extent that you are doing exactly what you're doing, looking at your life, what we're promising you that today is about and will happen is that you'll discover access to the power to manage and even eliminate stress and anxiety in your life. And so Giovanni's going to cover with us right now a distinction called worlds. Giovanni, go ahead.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Saurel. Thank you, Janelle, for sharing. So as we begin this inquiry on how to eliminate and how to manage or even eliminate stress, we want to first start by creating this, what we call distinction, or maybe something that allows you to differentiate something, to put a comparison between two things that are simultaneously happening. So what I mean by that is understanding the world inside of worlds. And by us creating this conversation, the inquiry of this conversation, then you'll be able to have access to really have freedom in what you're dealing with in a manner that you may not have experienced before, regardless of the circumstances that you're in. So the first thing that I want to engage you with is in looking at your screen and kind of looking at the circle. Gabby and Janelle, can you guys see the screen? Yeah, you see kind of a circle there, right? And without me telling you what it is, what would you guys say that that is? What would you say?
An orange circle.
An orange
Right.
circle, right?
Or a yellow circle, yes.
Or a yellow circle, right? And if I give you a little bit of context, then you'll notice that you may see something different. If I tell you that what you see is a fruit, what do you see?
An orange.
Right? It's no longer a circle, right? An orange circle is no longer a yellow circle. But the context that I gave actually has you see something. You could actually see the orange, right? Can you, Janelle, can you see the orange there?
Yes, I can see an orange now.
You could totally see an orange. It's no longer just a circle, an orange circle. Now you see an orange, right? So now I'm going to create a little bit more context to keep differentiating, to keep creating a distinction of what we mean, discover the world between inside of worlds. So when you look at what's inside of the circle, when you look at that circle, and when you look at what's inside of the circle, and I say what's inside of the circle is a number, what would you say it is?
1.
It's a 1, right? They're not really tricky questions. It's like a 1. And if I say what you see inside of that circle is letters, what would you say that is? Then you'll say
An I.
I, right? Or an L, right? And if I give you another context, right? If I give you another frame, another context, and I say what's inside of that circle is geometry, what would you say that is?
Pi.
What's that?
A pi.
Pi, right? Or a line, right? Or if I keep, pushing, you guys will say, well, that's a square, but you only see one side. Or you could say that's just dots. You would come up with different answers because the context, because the world inside of the world of the circle is geometry. So what we want to make emphasis here, and where we want to direct our imagination here, is to distinguish something. That nothing changed, but everything changed. When we shift the frame in which we're looking at things, when we discover the world in which we're looking at things, everything changes, but nothing changes. So the real challenge for us as human beings when we're dealing with stress, when we're dealing with anxiety, is to actually be present enough to distinguish the world that we are seeing things through. Does that make sense? Raise your hand if that makes sense. Yeah? So it's critical that we allow ourselves to notice something. This is very critical. Like, wow, this is something very important, critical, that we allow ourselves to distinguish something. Nothing changed, but everything changed. The world of numbers is completely different from the world of letters. It's very different. It's like, to make an exaggeration, but it's not really. It's like the world of Shakespeare with the world of Albert Einstein. Two different completely worlds that lead to completely different behavior, different thinking, different patterns, all inside of that circle with that line. So what we want to invite you is to allow yourself to be present in a way in which you start discovering the world in which you're in, that allows you to discover the source for the anxiety and for the stress that you may be finding yourself in. So, Saurel, you want me to continue, or should you continue?
Giovanni, keep going.
Gabby, I saw that your hand was up. Do you have a question here, Gabby?
No, you had asked us to raise our hand and I pushed on that. I'm sorry.
No problem. Very good. Very good. So now when you look at your present life right now, where you're sitting, I want you to discover three worlds that are happening right now as you are sitting. Now, it's going to take a little bit of being present for yourself to something that usually we're not used to. And that is the world of the circumstances that you're in. Then there is the world of the feelings and the emotions that you may be experiencing. Now, we want to separate this too. We want to separate the world of the circumstances that you're in. The world of the circumstances are very much filled with interpretations. Like somebody in the same circumstances can interpret something different, but you have your interpretations and they're not invalid, but we're going to say that's the world of circumstances. And then we have this world called the world of the feelings and the emotions. And what we're creating here is that they're separate. You have a world within you called your feelings and your emotions, and it's completely different from the world of circumstances. Now, it takes a little bit to be present that they're separate. For the most part, we don't live like they're separate. We live like they're the same. So in this conversation, we're going to be separating them. And then we have this world called your commitments, what you're actually committed to, which is separate from the world of feelings and emotions, which is separate from the world of the circumstances. However, you and I, right, without really having this conversation or without really having to be present to our life, we get to relate to these three worlds as cause and effect. Like something like, well, if the circumstances were different, then my feelings and my emotions were different. If my feelings and my emotions were different, then my commitment will be different. And we live our life kind of struggling in some way, in this struggle of having to bounce back and forth between the circumstances, which give me my feelings, which give me my commitments. And then if I would feel differently, then my circumstances would be different. Or if my commitment was different, then it would be, my circumstances would be different or my feelings would be different. Does that make sense?
Hey, Gio.
Go ahead, Saurel.
I want to take a quick second. Gabby, let's take a quick second together.
Yes.
And we want to take that quick second to make it real.
Yes.
Remember the circle that Gio showed at the beginning with the line in the middle?
Yes.
When Gio said, this is geometry, you had to say line. You couldn't say anything else. You have to. When Gio said, this is numbers, you had to say one. Do you guys get that?
Mm-hmm.
So the world itself tells you what to think, what to say, and how to act. And what we're pointing to here is that there is these three worlds called circumstances, emotions, and commitments. And what we do, we create a cause and effect relationship between them. That in and of itself creates a world. When we have a cause and effect relationship between circumstances, we act as if the circumstances make us feel the way we feel. And we act as if the way we feel make us do the things we do, whether we do what we're committed to or not. So at work, Gabby, can you see that connection? Give me a circumstance at work, give me the feeling you connect to it, and give me the actions you take or not take. 2 seconds, go for it.
Circumstance, I'm the only Black employee.
Got it. Feelings and emotions.
I feel like I'm being picked on.
And when you are quote unquote being picked on, when they say something, how do you feel?
I automatically feel like, okay, what did I do now?
Got it. Like you on edge.
Yeah.
Right? You got it?
Constantly defending myself.
And then there are actions you take to defend yourself.
Yeah.
That's it. You get the connection?
Yes.
The connection. So as Gabby created that for us, Janelle, take a look at that in your own life. CC, take a look at that in your own life. Fabiola, do the same thing. Welcome, Fabiola. So Gio, go ahead, brother.
Very good. And so then there is this world that also lives independent of the circumstances or the way I'm interpreting the circumstances. And then there's this world that is independent of the way I interpret my emotions, the way I feel, which is my commitments. So I always want to discover, or I always want to put on the table, if you will, well, what is it that I am committed to independent of the circumstances and independent of the feeling and the emotion? So if we can keep working with you, Gabby, what is what you are committed to independent of the circumstances and independent of the feelings and the emotion?
I'm committed to doing my job and to do it well.
You're committed to doing your job and to do it well, right?
Yes.
And inside of that commitment, right, what are you committed to the organization? When you say you are committed to do it well, what is that commitment to your team or to your company?
To my team, knowing that I'm there overseeing the office, I've got their back.
You got their back, right?
Yes.
And whatever that means, right? That's a big world. I've got their back. It means a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So now we're starting to separate them, Gabby, and I hope that you can see it, CC, and you can see it, Janelle, that we can separate the worlds that are happening right now. 3 completely different worlds. So what happens for the most part in our lives is that we collapse these 3 worlds. And the collapsing of these 3 worlds is at the source of being ineffective and getting stuck in one's life. Because I get to, all of a sudden, I see my circumstances as what actually is sourcing my commitment. And all of a sudden, I see my emotions and feelings in some way starting to create my circumstances and starting to create my actions around my commitment. So we collapse these 3 worlds. And for the most part, the brain is not trained to separate them, to have them on its own. There's a kind of a freedom that happens when I do the work to separate those 3 worlds. It's like you were doing, Gabby. I have circumstances. And inside of my circumstances, I have a certain way of interpreting the circumstances. One of them is, you said, I'm the only Black woman in the organization. That means something to me. Now, it could mean a lot of things to you, but there's one that is meaning. It has a certain meaning, right? And it's creating an emotion. However, you could have lots of emotions, right? It's not the only ones you're having, but I'm having this one. So when I separate those 3, these worlds begin to give you access. When you separate them, we begin to give you access to a certain kind of actions that only come from your commitment. Not necessarily from the interpretation of my circumstances or from the feelings and the emotions. So just to keep working on your generosity, Gabby, what is available when you look at the world of commitment on its own? What's available for you? What opens up?
What's
What's
it,
possible?
what opens up for me, the world of commitment, is that no matter how I feel, I do what I'm hired to do. I do what I say I'm going to do. So my integrity is on the line. So therefore, I'm constantly struggling to shake off the world of feelings and emotions to stay focused on my commitment, which is my deliverables, which is taking care of the customers, you know, being there. That's what opens up for me.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Saurel, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. Also want to point to Gabby, thank you for being generous, right?
Mhm,
When the circumstances, I am Black, and they're continually picking on me,
mhm,
even though you have a commitment to be the best you can be there,
mhm.
actions you take automatically are serving what? In the world where you don't separate them, where I'm Black and they're picking on me, what actions must you take? In the same way that you said line when Giovanni said geometry.
The action that seems to work for me is to avoid focusing on me being the only Black person being picked on, where I don't have a voice. My opinion doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So I have to find it constantly throughout the day ways to kind of like diffuse.
Yeah. Your mind gets really busy
Yes,
dealing with the
diffusing.
collapsed world,
Yep.
and you have no energy, no space left to deal and take actions with consistent with what you're really committed to. And what Giovanni's pointing to is when you uncollapse them and separate them, you can look at the commitment for what it is, and you can look at the circumstances for what they are. For God's sake, your skin is the color it is. And they're doing whatever they're doing and saying whatever they're doing. And your interpretation is that they're picking on you. Because you connect the circumstances and the emotions, then the interpretations become the truth. And you're stuck in that world. So separating and uncollapsing the worlds does open up what you say, a space where you can take actions consistent with what you're really committed to as a matter of choice. It's a choice.
Yes, sir. It is a choice, moment by moment,
It's a choice.
because because the feelings are always there, and because my brain always goes to that place. Well, you better not say anything because you know what you have to say doesn't matter anyway. So just focus on what you need to do. But that sounds to me like me resigning myself sometimes. And that's not really empowering me as a human being.
Yeah, I got that. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you. Giovanni, I'm curious what Janelle and Cece or Fabiola are getting from the conversation and Gabby's generous contribution.
Um, well, for me, I can, it's separate, it's like mutually exclusive for me. And I need to I can focus on my commitment now to who I am versus the circumstance about what's not happening. Then I can be fully present with, okay, well, sticking with what I'm committed to and have my energy go that way, because if my
Yeah.
energy is going where I'm committed to, I feel better about it and not stressed about it, because I know that I'm keeping my word to myself to be in alignment with my commitment. So that's what I'm getting at.
I got that you got that, Janelle. So just for the record, what is it you're really committed to that's been being displaced by collapsing these worlds? What's your commitment?
Hmm. Really looking at what's driving me, looking at what's important to me for me, and knowing that, you know, I'm committed to good health, of course, and just, you know, focusing on, you know, what I need to do to get to that state
Yeah.
of mind and presence, like fully, and knowing that it will come and not rushing it.
Yeah. Now, may I offer you something?
Sure.
Uh, right here, right now, if you separate the pain, which is the circumstance, right, from how you've been feeling about it, could you experience the possibility of being healthy right now in this moment?
If I don't think about it, yes.
Now, I didn't say the possibility of not being in pain.
Right,
You get that? There's a big difference.
right.
And, you know, by the way, Janelle, I'm not discounting the pain you may be feeling. That's not the point. I really get that you're here and you're in pain and you're dealing with that. And there's tremendous power in actually separating the circumstances, the feelings from what you're really committed to. Now, if just for a moment you consider it, what's an action you see possible that you can take that you haven't been taking that's consistent with what you're really committed to?
Mm. That's a very good question. So to think about that.
Stay in the
Action.
moment, though. Stay in the moment. Stay right here. Don't go think about it. Just be. I am committed to being healthy. What is an action consistent with that?
So I'm
Regardless.
committed to being committed to being healthy. Action that's consistent is ensuring is making sure that I get the proper rest and I get 8 hours no matter what.
There you go. Right? You could do
That's
that.
one thing.
You could do that. Right?
That's an immediate, yes.
Thank you for being generous, Janelle. Thank you, Gabby. And
Thank
that's
you.
what it looks like, right? Uh, as I mentioned earlier, we're not here to give you answers, but we could give you a question call. What would I feel if I were tending to being in action consistent with what I'm really committed to in the face of my circumstances and in the face of my feelings and emotions? That's a question. Mhm. Giovanni.
Yes, thank you, Saurel. Is there anything for you, CC, for you to add that you're discovering in this conversation?
Yes, I'm adding that emotions are not real. They're just emotions. They're not like you can pick them up. And the circumstances are what they are. And what I'm committed to being is staying in good health, living my best life with financial security, as well as I'm committed to the entire community having equal living conditions. That includes healthy living conditions. And so the principality that has controlled the community for years has to be dismantled. So it's in the process. So the resistance is in the dismantling of a principality of control, which no longer exists anymore because of primarily me stepping up and standing up for everyone. And it is what it is, but at the end of the day, our community will be a much better place and everyone will receive equal treatment as far as how we live, 79 units. So thank you for listening to CC.
Cece, that is very great. So in your share, Cece, I was so present to your commitment, right? And at the beginning, you started your commitment. When you were sharing your commitment, you started sharing your well-being is your commitment. So it's critical that you allow that, not just you, but those of us who are listening, that we allow ourselves to distinguish our commitments and be present to them so that we give space to the actions that are aligned with our commitments, not just one commitment, but our commitments. There is my commitment to my community, and then there's my commitment to my well-being. It has different actions. And in the opportunity of this conversation, we discover them all. And I get to have actions, either have actions or stop actions that are not consistent to my commitment. Does that make sense, Cece?
You want me to be honest?
Yes.
No, it sounds like it's made up. So
What's made up, Cece?
my commitments are real, but the emotions are not, and the circumstances around the emotions are not real. So I don't even have to deal with it because they're all made up.
So perfect, thank you. So the opportunity of discovering something in the conversation, Cece, is that when you and I say, my circumstances are not real, my feelings and my emotions are not real, but my commitments are real, then there is something I'm dismissing that may be critical to my commitment about the circumstances I'm in and about my feelings and my emotions. Is that pointing to something that makes sense, Cece?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, if you want to say it like that, I mean, I can agree.
Hey,
But,
see,
yeah. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. And guess what? Are you flesh and blood?
Yeah.
That's real, isn't it?
Yeah, that's real.
Do you have a brain?
Of course.
That's real too, isn't it?
Right.
Does your brain function the way a human brain does?
Yeah.
That's real too, isn't it?
Yes.
So the way a human brain functions is that when a circumstance is presented to it, it fires off signals across the synapses in the brains and transmits chemicals in your bloodstream that actually have you feel the way you feel. Now, is that real?
To the person that's dealing with them, yes, it's real. But in my mind, those things can be dispelled by the actions I take in my life. There's going to be some type of stress in everybody's life, but perhaps they're attached to either an event or a situation that has caused them to rise up. So they're not really real. It's real for the person experiencing it because they are experiencing it, but it's not really real, like a tangible thing. Like I can pick up a book. Yeah. And these are all things that you can talk about, but to make them into something physical, like a book, it's not there unless it's all in the mind. So we can change our mind at any time.
Yeah.
So I'm changing my mind.
Saurel, do you mind if I add something?
Go for it, Gio.
Yes, Sissy, absolutely. And you know, you and I, if there was a time in our lives when we were created from a particular pencil, you and I were created on the same pencil. Our commitments mean a lot to us. So what Saurel and I are pointing to, and we're going to leave it as an inquiry, Sissy, and I would love to pick up this conversation if you want to, off outside of the webinar. What Saurel and I are pointing to as an opportunity of an inquiry, not as an opportunity for you to take something on, but just as an inquiry, is that your commitments are also not real. Neither the circumstances are real, neither feelings and emotions are real, neither your commitments are real. However, when you said my well-being is my commitment, then the circumstances is an aspect to look at so that you are taken care of. When your feelings and your emotions is an aspect of the world, right, where the commitment is your well-being, then this world of feelings and emotions are important to look and consider so that you are set powerfully in your well-being. So we're just kind of separating the worlds and allowing them to be part of everything that you consider in the world of your commitments. Does that make sense, Cece?
All of it makes sense. I was on mute.
Perfect. Perfect, Cece. Thank you so much for being in the inquiry, Cece, and being generous in your sharing. And I love when you said, well, nothing is real. I was just like, I love Cece. Thank you, Cece. All right. Well, very good. Very well. All of you have been very generous in your sharing and very generous in the discovery of this. And we are committed to leave you with a new view of how to look at what you may be experiencing stressful and have some tools in terms of inquiry on how to allow yourself to be present and then take on actions that are committed, or better said, actions that are aligned with your commitments rather than having to deal with bouncing back and forth between your emotions and your interpretations of the circumstances. So we have two opportunities now for you to consider in the future so that you continue practice this this kind of inquiry that allows you for you to generate freedom and be in action in those things that you're committed to. Go ahead, Saurel.
There is nothing more important than practice. And I don't mean practice so you can get somewhere. And you will get somewhere. So this conversation is not the kind of conversation that's like you take X and you take Y and X plus Y equals Z. No, it's the opportunity to continually look at where you take the circumstances, collapse them with the emotions. Yes, they may not be real, but guess what? Your brain collapses them all the time, and you get stuck in the actions you have to take to deal with what is the result of doing that. So this occasion, every Monday at 12:30 p.m. is an occasion for you to be with Giovanni and I in an ongoing coaching program. And that occasion is at www.turningpoint.expert. A monthly fee of $24 is part of the game. And we would love to have you, your friends, your family members join us for that conversation. There's limited room for the conversation, and we want everybody in the conversation. So that's that opportunity at turningpoint.expert. The second opportunity is Access the Leader Within. We're creating the 3-day course that Giovanni and I co-lead, and we're doing it virtually. Imagine being in the comfort of your home, your living room, present for 3 days with us. We'll take frequent breaks every 90 minutes, every hour or so, depending on the content. And what you get during those 3 days is not only Giovanni and I creating with you the distinctions of Access the Leader Within, that are very similar to the distinctions that we just covered. Powerful in life, in every aspect of your life. That's what Access to Leader Within is all about. You will discover the quilt that makes up all of the conversations that gives you your identity. And you will start the mastery of those conversations and free yourself up. Now, all of that, including the workshop, including the work that Giovanni and I will do with you, 30 years of experience, the equivalent of $5,500, plus the group coaching call, 5 of them included, all of that for $97, which is really just the cost of putting the program together. In this era of COVID-19, we want to make sure that the program's available to the largest number of people possible. And we'd love to have you participate with us. Whether you've done the course before or not, this is still an opportunity for you to continue to expand who you are, expand your opportunity to practice, and join Giovanni and I. Access to Leader Within will be on the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th of August. And you can register for it at accesstoleaderwithin.com. Giovanni?
Thank you, Saurel. Very good. Yes, so we will definitely want to invite you to consider being in the course on the last weekend of August, where we will be, just like taking on a journey of reprogramming ourselves, in a journey of taking apart the very conclusions that may be getting us, may be getting in our way from having a shift in those things that we have always wanted to do, and we may not be doing, given the way I'm interpreting the circumstances, the way I'm interpreting the emotions and being with my emotions, and the way I'm being with my commitments. So we would love to have you at the end of August. Thank you for being part of this webinar, and thank you for being part of our lives. We look forward to have you in one of our programs.
Giovanni, I want to acknowledge Fabiola and Fabienne for being here and give them the last word. Fabiola or Fabienne, I'd love to hear you.
Thank you for acknowledging. Actually, when I saw the topic, it came at the right time, because I just got fired today. So I'm like, you know what? Let me not look at the circumstance. Let me go listen and try to see what my next commitment is. I mean, I know what my commitment is, what the next action. I'm not gonna let the emotion and the circumstance stop me from sticking to my commitment. So let me go and look how to reduce the anxiety and stress.
Way to go, girl. Way to go. And what was it like for you participating? And what are you taking away from your participation?
For me, like in the moment of being there, it's just like, you know what? I'm just looking at what just happened and where I'm at right now. Just it is what it is. Now, what am I gonna do to reach my commitment, to stick to my commitment, which is taking care of my family, making sure that they are healthy, well-fed, well-dressed, and all that. So for me right now, this was kind of like a booster for me. So, yeah.
Well, welcome home, my dear. And
All right.
being that kind of pillar for your family and for humanity.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good work. CC, thank you. Gabby, thank you. Giovanni, thank you.
Thank you, Saurel.
Right.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful evening.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.